like a person that becomes a lunatic. Like you start being in something so long, because at the end of the day, this could drive a person psycho, because it's a cycle, right? So they're consistently repeating this cycle over and over again. If they can't figure out what's going on, it starts to drive them crazy, and then they start to kind of get like binded to it, right? And so from my experience, the game-like nature to this reality that's so much of a joke right now is a product of the jackal. Versus in the Great Mother's reality, it is more of like what you're explaining, where there's things to learn.
Right.
So what this is what they call the lamb on the path. It's like you kind of left the path and now you're kind of in Wonderland. But when you return back to the path and you continue your journey. And this journey, it consists of like walking through the halls of your ancestors and absorbing all the wisdom and the knowledge that they have. So in Earth is still one of the ancestors, or even the jackal is one of the ancestors. This is another thing that people need to understand. In the lines in these lineages, it's not like they're going to go and kill the jackal. This would be very similar to walking into somebody else's family and saying, kill the father because he did X. You don't even have the rank to do that. Like, so it's like a highborn being killed by a lowborn is not really even approved in that way, right? In the whole scheme of things with the royal families and holy families and this kind of thing, right? So this could perpetuate for quite a bit externally. Internally, you have really a lot of power unless you fall out of power. And that's what we were saying about the hereditary passing, of where somebody can kind of like doom you a little bit, like your mom can doom you a little bit, and you have to kind of swim. That's why we have a saying around here, keep swimming. And what we're talking about is getting to the surface. Because a lot of times people are looking to even get to zero again, because where they're at is like negative 30 in the degrees, right? Their base, lo-fi, right? So they're really low in their frequency. And, you know, and versus, now again, not saying low frequency is a bad thing. There's a lesson there. Sub infrared is the realm. You could see them if you stop using, if you weren't exposed to light for 2 weeks, you can see the other entities. They live in the sub-red. Right, they're infrared. Literally, that's actually what you see them. They move around like red shadows. You see what I mean? And if the more you don't exposed to light, because your pineal gland closes when you're exposed to light, and that's why you should understand kind of like the whole role of light in a reality. It's actually to blind you. That's why they call it blinded by the light.
Right.
And so when you're also remember the sun. Remember I said it's still more like the Great Mother's principle, because it's like those are the machinations that are dynamos. But this is not the same sun. This is the sixth sun, right? So the sixth sun, in this case, all these suns roll through like processors in the morning.
Right.
They're CPUs. So when they come through, they process what's in the cloud. That's where they stole that from. The sun, it comes forward and it has creatures. I can't tell you what they are. I have seen them before. And when they come, they run and they gather the cloud. And what you can see the cloud is like when a person is dreaming, they build a cloud, okay? And all of the dream is in that cloud. Then when the sun comes in the morning, it sends, they say they go and they come. That's the only thing I've ever read. They go and they come. And when I witness them, they're like dogs in a way that they go and they get a cloud and then they bring it back to the processor. And they're more like, look. And then the processor acknowledges it and it absorbs it, and then it goes and runs again. So it's almost like a way of fetching everything that everybody's been dreaming about that night, and the sun processes that like a CPU.
Right.
So in conclusion, I kind of see everything to be still within this divine design of you got the jokers and the tricksters, and they exist on one level. They call them like when you take any kind of substances, you see them first. Okay, peep out how this works, because you can always prove this stuff that I'm saying. When you first take DMT, the first thing that happens is the ground seems like it's moving. So if you're on the beach, you'll watch the sand go like this. If you're in the jungle, you'll watch the ground move. And this is because what you generally activate first is the root chakra, and the root chakra corresponds to the ground. And because your root chakra is now moving, it looks like the ground is moving. Okay? However, as you keep going on more and more journeys and the Kundalini starts rising, the ground stops moving and other things start moving. Right. So this is an indicator that wherever your Kundalini is residing is what you're going to see animated when you enter into these higher states of consciousness, right? Or into any altered state of consciousness where, you know, you're now utilizing your spiritual vehicles and your spiritual capacity. So what this equals is it equals the ability for you to, I guess I kind of explained it all there. It's like you have now like these vehicles that allow you to move in and through different spaces, but based on the levels. And that's why I was showing before that the jackal, he inverted himself and he became the external genitalia Tubal Cain. So, of course, when you activate the root chakra, also, if you notice, the first thing that you see, even when your eyes are closed, is it looks like a kaleidoscope of jokers. Anybody who's gone on DMT, everybody sees it. Most people don't know what it is. It's like a kaleidoscope of jokers, and it feels like they're so close to you that they're like humping your face, and it's very uncomfortable because you're like trying to not see them, but you see them when your eyes closed because your third eye is open. This is the joker. This is the jackal. This is the root chakra. So it's because that world is built there, and so this is where you're at. You see what I mean? So if you take that knowledge and you use celestial mechanics, as we call it, this is where you're at. Technically, when you first begin, you kind of start off in the median or in Midgard. So technically, think about where you're at. When you cross land, you got the deep, which is more like your legs, right? And it's going way down there. And then you got all the way up here to the top, which is like that realm that I told you that's just like all white and everything sounds really high-pitched. But where you're at is you're on Earth. You're in the median. Where Earth is a median, as I mentioned in my last conversation, is where all of the gods settle their disputes, or all the family members settle their disputes. Like it's like a sovereign in a courtroom. When something is decreed, it doesn't happen to that sovereign. We don't punish that sovereign. It happens to the species he's connected to. That's how they figure that out, right? So they don't war and fight amongst each other. It all happens down here in the median. This is the mediation zone, right? And so because of that, if what you're saying, to put what you're saying in perspective, technically this gets complicated the more you drill into, like, basically the more distorted or further away aspects of the reality from self. That's why it seems so difficult. Baby mama leaving, all this stuff crazy going around you. Like I said, like it gets to a point where you can't even imagine where all this stuff is coming from because you got so many crazy things going on. But what you'll notice is when you get your life together and you have a moment to stop and remove like stimulation, and like I did that when I came to Costa Rica, you'll start noticing, like, it'll clear, like you'll go through a course of where all the karma is working itself out, and then you'll get into this like where there's no karma. Because you're not doing anything. Like I literally was in the house every single day just meditating and eating like palm heart sandwiches. You know what I mean? Right. Nothing, right? No stimulus. And in that, I never had so basically if you don't do nothing, nothing happens. Right? If you do great things happen. If you do bad things, expect it. It's going to come around at some point. And if it's too much stuff, you won't even be able to know where it all is coming from. You just think it's a part of life. And really what it is it's kind of like a part of the trickery, because remember, there's also entities, and we go on, but there's also entities that they're listening. Like they're listening all around to figure out where they can catch you up on something. Like that's how the kingdom, if you say the kingdom of Seth, the subservients of the kingdom of Seth that are already disincarnate, meaning they don't have bodies, so they won't be entering back into the physical plane to get money, which money doesn't stop here. It's like an energetic balance energy thing, current. To get money, they have to cause like some confusion. So they're basically ranked like the military. And that's why like a warlock will have like 10,000 demons. Like he's like the Lord of the Mice. Jeanette made a joke the other day, and she was saying that we were seeing these lions on National Geographic, right? But they had all these flies and shit in their face. And she thought about it for a minute. She said, "What good is it being a lion if you're always disturbed by the flies?" That shit was brilliant. All that power. Yeah, you may be able to run down all these gazelles and shit, but flies is just, and you don't got no hands for that. All you got is a tail, right? It's just, again, an ode to where you really resting your power at, and what do you really find to be powerful, right? And so, yeah, that's the story of this, is that if we see how the design is, we'll actually understand that the more you clear your field of stuff that you just know is going to enter you into confusion, the more you start getting to, like we say, get me to ground zero, like at least sea level, so I can poke my head out of the water. Right. Because when you're in the negs, there's all types of restrictions and confinements there, even jail. Okay, all that is netherworld stuff, right? And then you break the surface. Now you're balanced. Okay, now you don't have debt. You don't owe anybody, right? And then now you start climbing from there. And then as you're climbing, the reality becomes more and more free. And it becomes less and less like a joke, less and less like it doesn't mean anything. And then it starts having more and more importance, right? So that's kind of what's going on with the directions of when reality starts becoming really strict and confined and hard, versus as it starts getting easier and it seems like the celestials and everything is working in your favor. Yeah.